Can you tell us who those people are? And will you commit that your office share who you meet with at a business level like this?
Yeah, I think we share broad. It's a good question.
Mark Carney tells his media pets that they should not be asking him who he's meeting with. Just take his word for it. He's meeting with somebody. Welcome back to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling. Mark Carney was speaking to Canadians from England, of course, because he's been out of the country for quite a while. And he was talking about all of the things he's been talking about for 6 or 7 months. There was nothing new in his statement. There was nothing new, except for he wanted to make a big deal about some contract he made with Indonesia. He was asked, of course, some questions from the same 4 media outlets that get to ask him questions everywhere he goes. CTV, CBC, CBC French, and Global. Nobody else gets to ask Mark Carney a question, which of course is part of the problem. However, Mark Carney was very adamant in his responses and how the media attempted to paint the Conservatives as being unreasonable, and yet when the answers come out, Mark Carney had nothing.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Jeremy Sherrill, CTV News. Conservatives say you are jetting around but getting nothing done. You've met with numerous leaders while you've been here, but you're not signing a new deal or making, announcing a new partnership. What have you achieved tangibly for Canadians during this trip?
Yeah.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Look, there's a couple of things, Jeremy. One is that, and I would look at what we've done over the course of the last 10 days in Mexico, in New York, in Ottawa, in London.
Wow. It's a pretty good green footprint.
Major trade deal with the 4th largest population economy in the world, Indonesia, a country that's on track to be the 5th largest economy in the world over the next 2 decades. The first major trade deal for that country with Canada. It's comprehensive, signed.
I had to look at it. I'll get to it in a minute. It's it's nothing what he's describing.
A deepening of the partnership with Mexico, very specific set of objectives that are going to be, and partnerships that are going to be tracked and built on over the course of the next 3, 6, 9 months, consistent with the review of CUSMA with the United States, crucial.
If you think for 1 second Mexico will do anything to put a toe out of line with the United States of America, then you're more naive than I would be. Trust me when I tell you, there is no way in the world that Mexico will go against what Donald Trump wants. They got tier 1 operators down there taking the cartel out left, right, and center. They're bringing them back into the United States of America. The trade that is flowing between the two countries is much greater than was happening under Biden. There's no way in the world that Mexico will do anything with Canada unless they get the express approval of the United States.
Prime Minister Starmer and I agreed a series of economic and security measures back in June. This meeting was designed to go through progress on those measures, make sure we're on track on everything from digital to agriculture.
Digital, like the ID? Or do you mean digital like you could have just done this over the phone?
The meetings in New York and here, and Ottawa for that matter, with the past, current, and future presidents of the European Union.
How does he know what the future president of the European Union is going to be?
Are necessary to help translate the agreements in June with the European Union, the framework agreements for opening up further market access in Europe, including in digital, and those defense partnerships which are crucial for driving our economy forward. That's to make sure that those agreements translate into the action and the detail there. And then lastly,
for those of you keeping score at home, he still has said nothing beyond, yeah, I got together with these guys so that we could talk about what we've already talked about.
We are going to, as a country, we are going to invest. Coming just around the corner. Check is in the mail. Hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars over the course of the next decade to create hundreds of thousands of careers for Canadians, and long-term prosperity. Part of that investment, part of the money for that investment is going to come from abroad. And so it's one thing to have the strategy, it's another thing to have these deepening trade relationships, and it's a third thing that is required is to tell major pools of capital what we're doing, attract them to Canada so that they can build prosperity with us. And so this morning I went through another set of meetings with major investors here doing exactly that.
Well, another set of meetings. I mean, obviously, that's going to be the way that we should go about it. Now, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Mark Carney talking about meeting with the globalists or large pools of investment was accurate, right? That would make sense that if he was standing in New York, there's large bankers there. There's also quite a few bankers in England, and there are lots of people with pools of money that are doing nothing but trying to invest it. Of course, most of them are investing in their natural resources. Let's just say, though, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. You want me to believe that it's best for you to go to them? That you are setting up meetings with these people and you want me to believe it's best for you to go to them. You're the leader of a G7 country and you're going to their office to meet with them. You're going to where they are to meet with them. They're not coming to you. They're not traveling to you. You don't say to them, listen, my hands are full. My hands are really busy with trying to save my G7 country from economic destruction. So if you want to talk to me, you're going to have to come here. Oh, because they don't want to talk to you. You're going there hat in hand, trying to explain to them how their investments in your globalist ideas are still safe and protected. I mean, Mark Carney just spent 5 minutes at the UN explaining how he's doing everything in his power to protect the ESG rules of the United Nations. I'll do that in a different video. Now I want to talk to you about the Indonesia, right? Because he said, oh, no, I hammered out a deal with Indonesia. This is the release on the agreement with Indonesia from Mark Carney's desk. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will leave a link in the description. I'll just read this one part here. Once the CEPA, the Canadian-Indonesia Partnership Agreement, is fully implemented, over 95% of current Canadian exports to Indonesia will have tariffs either reduced or fully eliminated, making Canadian exports such as wheat, potash, wood, and soybeans far more competitive in Indonesia. The CEPA will come into force in 2026, next year, not now, next year, giving consumers and businesses in both countries greater choice and lower costs while empowering our Canadian workers with opportunities for high-quality careers and making our supply chain stronger and more resilient. It's one thing I've noticed the Liberal government has tried to switch their language. They're no longer talking about jobs. Now they want to use the word careers because they understand that people are looking for jobs that they can have for their life. They're looking for better than just let me go to Tim Hortons. So now the Liberals have changed the language to try to appeal to the under 35 male vote, which of course they've lost almost 90% of. Another interesting thing to take away from this report, to further drive investment in one another's economies, Prime Minister Carney and President Subianto welcomed the new Market Leader Partnership Agreement between Export Development Canada, which is the branch of the Canadian government that goes around all the different countries trying to find businesses. That's their job. They've been they've been in operation for a little while. And the Indonesia Investment Authority, INA. Under the partnership, the EDC will make debt financing up to $825 million available for the INA. The EDC and the INA will work in collaboration to attract investment and generate new business opportunities for Canadian exporters and investors in priority sectors across Indonesia, including infrastructure, digital services, renewable energy, and advanced manufacturing. So we're going to give them $1 billion. That's what the gist of that says. We will make debt financing up to $825 million available. So we are going to be bailing people out in Indonesia now because let's be clear. We're going to borrow money so that we can pay off their debts. Excellent. What a comprehensive agreement we hammered out with Indonesia. Just one more quick thing about this Indonesia situation before we go back to Mark Carney's ridiculous statements from England there. Here I got the world's trajectory, the top 15 economies through time. And you can see it's 1980, it's the year 2000, it's the year 2022. And if you look at number 8, you can see that Canada is at number 8 in all of those locations. Of course, now you'll say, well, I thought they were in the 7. China's not in the G7, and these include China. What I really think is funny is that in 2022, Indonesia is not on the top 15 at all. And Canada is at 8th. And then by 2050, Indonesia is at 4th and Canada is at 14th. Now, I looked at time of recording, Mexico pulled ahead of Canada, so we're 12th right now. So I don't know at our current trajectory if we'll only slip down to 14th. Nonetheless, Mark Carney should be worrying less about where Indonesia is going and more worried about where Canada is going. And of course, on top of that, by 2075, this very same model has Canada off the list completely. And Mark Carney wants you to think that it's Indonesia's economy we should be focusing on or worrying about. I don't see how he's putting Canada first at all in any of this behavior, but I suppose that's the point, isn't it? He's saying one thing, and the reality is actually something different. Watch this mess.
You mentioned both in New York and London, and in recent days you've been meeting with lots of business leaders and CEOs. For the most part, we don't know who those people are. Can you tell us who those people are? And will you commit that your office share who you meet with at a business level like this?
Yeah, I think we share broad.
What is that? What is he? Who's he meeting with that he can't tell us?
It's a good question. Actually, don't know what we share, to be honest. I mean, how's that for an honest answer?
Can you tell us a few of the people you've met?
We met today with a number of infrastructure, basically infrastructure type investors. So people who have global capital invest around the world, largely in infrastructure projects.
Well, isn't that comprehensive? Basically, infrastructure type investors. What I know about investing is this: you put the money where the money comes back. You don't have a specific investment. You go where the money goes. That's how these guys take over half the planet, because they buy up everything, not just a specific thing.
And
he probably just doesn't want you to hear the list of bankers that are involved in some of his other past lives that he's going to be trying to give big pieces of Canada's resources to.
the sense that what I was looking for was partly obviously to tell the story of what we're doing in Canada.
Oh, there's a story being told, for sure.
Major projects, improving the tax system, moving forward fiscal responsibility, but also to hear from them perceptions of Canada, where they're investing elsewhere, what's driving their investment, what are the major themes, so that we're setting up the right partnerships for the country. I'll review our policy. I don't know what our disclosure policy is, so thank you for that question. And I don't know if we have to check. There's no. Let me be absolutely clear, though, just for the.
I mean, if you could start with some transparency, Mr. Carney, that would be great. I don't know why you can't tell the Canadian people who you're meeting with if you want us to put so much weight on these meetings.
Points it out. The discussions I had in New York and here are discussions about the overall investment climate, not specific.
Oh, now it's not investments. It's just the feelings. They're having a feeling. He wants to understand the feelings.
Transactions or investment deals is how is Canada perceived? What are the global trends? What we're doing, how that would be perceived, because we're looking to raise the profile globally, because as I said in my earlier comments, significant capital is going to be required.
Wow. What a load that was. I mean, did you see it? Did you see him trying desperately to avoid telling the media who he's meeting with? Though at the beginning of the press conference, he was reassuring all of the conservatives out there that were criticizing his actions as doing nothing and coming back empty-handed. And he said, no, I have this comprehensive list of things that I've done, which I showed you, the Indonesia agreement, and everything else is just sitting around and talking. Then he confirms that he's only sitting around and talking with the last statement. Of course, worse than sitting around and talking, he's actually according to his own words, acting as the individual who's trying to do all the fact finding. He's doing the research now for Canada. He's taking the private jet and taking time away from the country and leaving the running of the country to underlings, while he runs around and meets with these businessmen, these, how did he put it? Infrastructure type investors. He's meeting with them to get an idea of how they perceive Canada. Like, he doesn't understand firsthand. Like, I mean, that's the thing that I just want to wrap Canadians' minds around. He campaigned on being Mr. Business. He campaigned on being the guy who understands these people. So he should be able to look at the situation and just say, well, I know if I was them, this is what would bother me. I know if I was them, this is what I would be thinking. I know if I was them, this is what I would be doing. And so let's change all of that so that if I'm them, they're looking at it in a way that seems very tantalizing to them. That's the simple fact of the matter. I mean, or he could have just sent a text message to a couple of them and said, hey, what are your thoughts? But he can't do any of that because the answer that he just gave you is an avoidance. He had no idea what to say. All he knows is that he doesn't want Canadians to know who he's meeting with. And he admits that he's coming out of those meetings with absolutely nothing in his hand. So what are you and I to take away from that? What are you and I to believe that he's doing, except for maybe wasting time or jet setting around the world on our dime? Perhaps he's making, backdoors deals with people that he knows, or backroom deals, or whatever they call that, with people that he's known for many, many years. Because I can tell you right now that once you get into the certain circles, there's only a few that you talk to. Now, there might be different clusters and different sectors, like for people who invest only in one region or invest in another region. I'll give you that. But when you're talking about New York and London, these have been the banking or the investment capital for a long, long time. And so there's only a very few circles in that. And everybody knows everybody. So when you want me to believe, on the one hand, that you're sitting down and just getting a sense of how they feel and what it is that they're worried about, well, of course, because you campaigned on being able to be the guy in the room. Nothing makes sense. Like, if I give you the benefit of the doubt, let's just take your words at face value, Mr. Carney, nothing adds up. And that's something that you would think an economist would be looking at, having it add up. Of course, he's not being, grilled by the media, because the media is bought and paid for by the Liberal government, right? Again, there's only 4 of them in the room, and none of them are independent, and none of them would dare to ask Mark Carney or anyone in the Liberal government a tough question. The guy was probably hoping that he would get a name or two so that he could silence all of the people that he hears in his feed talking about how Mark Carney is, there's nothing to show for his efforts. So it's been 7 months and he's still flying around the planet trying to talk about how he's setting up. Well, now he's flying around the planet talking about how he's getting the temperature of these, billion-dollar investment bankers. But he is a billion-dollar investment banker, so he should know exactly what they're looking for in the market. He would know exactly what they look for when they look into a region to do their investing. He would know that. Or he doesn't know that? Is that what you want me to believe? So he's not an investment banker. Now, which is it? I'm just asking anybody out there that's on the left or that supports the Liberal government to make sense of that. Square that circle for me. Because from where I'm sitting, none of this adds up. And when none of it adds up after 11 years, I am extremely skeptical. That's just me. You can let me know what you think down in the comments. I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.